In today's video, we're going to be talking about the most powerful tips to prepare for this economic collapse. First of all, it's happening ways that are a little bit different. It's an invisible crash that's happening through inflation, but almost nobody is prepared for what's happening. So, we're going to be discussing the best ways that you can prepare yourself. I'm joined by my good friend, Steve Penny, creator of the Silver Chartist newsletter. It's the best free newsletter for macroeconomics, gold, silver, mining stocks, uranium. The link to it is right there down below in the description and pinned to the comments right there down below. So I encourage you right now, as one additional way to prepare yourself, just get your mind thinking out of fear and into opportunities. We're in the middle of the biggest wealth transfer in human history. There are incredible opportunities to grow your wealth and your net worth. And Steve breaks down a lot of these happening in mining stocks and commodities. It's a fantastic free newsletter. It's linked right there down below. So go ahead and grab that right now. Hit the like button on this video to send it out into the YouTube universe so more people see it. Comment down below one thing you are grateful for. What's one thing you are grateful for in your life right now? Shout out to our channel sponsor, Vizsla Silver, one of our favorite silver and gold mining stocks. So thank you, Vizsla. Steve, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. What's one thing you're grateful for?
Oh man, I'll say my family. I've got an awesome family.
All right. So we're going to be talking about ways to prepare yourself for what's coming, right? And we've talked a lot about what are these macroeconomic problems in this currency crisis, this devaluation of currency, inflation, freedom and sovereignty grabs by big governments around the world. You know, for the most part, people know, right? But let's talk about how to prepare. So where do we begin?
Well, it's easy for me being a silver and gold newsletter writer to say, buy silver and gold, right? And get some mining stocks. I mean, that has a role, but I think we can talk about things that kind of transcend that, because that's one piece of the puzzle. So I was thinking, put some thought into this before our call. And I thought, one thing really that I think can help a lot of people is focus on what you can control and turn off the noise. So many of us are bogged down watching, the mainstream media, and we have all these inputs that affect the way we think. And I think it's important for all of us to realize, and I bet most of your listeners know this already, but when you watch mainstream media, you're the product. You're the product. They're selling your attention to the companies to get you to buy stuff from the corporation, stuff you don't need and probably don't even want. So, that's number one. I would say focus on what you can control. Most of us, our sphere of influence does not extend to Washington. It doesn't extend to the Federal Reserve and all this. So we can spend all our time and energy complaining about it, or we can spend our time and energy focusing on what we can control and taking some action steps.
So I think one of the other ways that you're talking about the media, right? And I think it's such an important point because, there's probably a lot of people that listen to this channel that probably don't listen to the media. Yeah. But I've noticed that it seems like in our world, we're conditioned to drama, basically. And that drama manifests in many ways, whether it's in our household, whether it's trying to get someone to understand us, whether it's focusing on all these things happening in the world that we can't control. And I guess what you're really saying here is, look, you've got a couple main goals. You've got a couple main senses of urgencies. Direct your energy in the proper places, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't think a lot of your listeners watch the mainstream media, but I think a lot of people in this kind of community do maybe look to political solutions to our problems. And, I'd say that's one thing to be on guard against. There's no political savior is going to come and fix everything. Getting your man in the White House or your woman in the White House, that's not going to change anything. So one thing I wrote down here is align your actions with your beliefs. And when the two are out of sync, when what you believe to be true and your actions are not in alignment, that the result of that is worry. And worry is a completely unproductive emotion. So, align your actions with your beliefs, I think, is a good follow-up thought to that.
I just read an article recently in International Man, that's Doug Casey's newsletter, by my friend, is Jeff Thomas that writes them. And so he was talking about that exact point, and it was such a good article. I read it to my wife, and he was talking about the Freedom Ferry. And he was saying that many, highly awake people that understand the problem then are looking for a freedom fairy, something out there, whether it's we, whether it's this one man or woman, whether it's a shift to some new political ideology, whether it's one day people are going to wake up, they're pushing their freedom basically to a fairy out out there. And I thought that that's really interesting, and why I wanted to discuss the topic here today is because there's only one thing for sure we can control, and that's ourselves, right? And I think the point of this channel is to prepare people as much as possible. And so, what do you think if you're saying, all right, the freedom fairies out there, but I need to reorganize my mind, I need to reorganize myself. What do you think are important components for mindset that can prepare you for what is happening in the world to create your own freedom?
Yeah. So I think two big themes. This is something I've been thinking a lot about is resilience. I mean, if you were to encapsulate in one word, um, a way to prepare for what lies ahead, I think it's resilience, and that begins with mindset, having mental fortitude to, think like you can prosper even though things are headed on a negative trajectory. And I think that starts with your mindset. And some principles are, try to train yourself. And I'm still trying to do this myself, but to think like a producer and not a consumer. Um, so that's one thing.
So, when you were looking at, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as a third point is building a cash reserve, and I think that this is one of the hardest parts for the 350 million Americans or whatever number that there is out there. And I think it's one of the most important things, and I think it blends in perfectly with your point number two on mental fortitude, because for many people, building a cash reserve in a timely manner can seem unattainable. How would one go about doing that?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I remember when I was new to this story about the Federal Reserve and debt-based fiat currency and all this, and that inflation was eventually going to run out of control. A lot of people automatically go to, well, consumer debt is good because it's going to be wiped away from inflation. Why do I want to save cash? It's losing value, in fiat currency. Why would I want to save that? Well, I've kind of switched my mindset on that a little bit. I'm in the camp of consumer debt. It's like a burden. It's like a constant drag on you. So personally, I try to avoid all consumer debt, and then having some cash reserve just gives you some, a little bit of one. It gives you opportunity because this is a boom bust market. So even though I think the trend is obviously towards higher inflation, we're going to see deflationary busts along the way, even though they're going to be short lived. And having cash available, one gives you the opportunity to scoop up bargains, but it also it's an insurance policy. There's just some freedom that comes along with having some cash available, and we can talk about some potential ideas to start generating extra cash flow too.
So, okay, somebody says, all right, I'm glad this isn't just another doom and gloom video.
Mhm.
I had a couple great ideas to prepare me. I'm going to finally take this next step, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to start to get ahead more financially. And I pick my goal in 6 months. I want to have X amount of dollars saved or whatever it is. Let's talk about some of those ideas or that steps that one could take.
Yeah. So pretty much what you're laying out there is have a plan, and that's going to look different for everyone. And a plan should always be identifiable and achievable. Have a reasonable target, and then have a reverse engineer the process to get there. So I think that's so important. And a lot of people are bogged down with 9 to 5 jobs. They're working 50 hours a week, and they think I have no spare capacity. So, I would encourage you maybe think what can I cut out in my life that's not productive. Like for me, we canceled our cable years ago, and it's like, oh, what a relief. I'm not watching that stuff anymore. How much time was wasted watching all this stuff, this garbage. So, and now you can take that time and put it towards more productive uses.
What do you think are the most important skills for the world we're heading into?
Well, self-reliance and resilience is good. And, that's one that I kind of lack a lot of those kind of things myself. Being able to grow your own food, or if you can hunt or those kind of things. I mean, those are going to be very valuable skills. Or, if you're handy at fixing things, those are things I need to work on myself. But, as far as generating cash flow, side hustles, I mean, there's no right answer for everybody. But, you know, for me, if I were to go start over and I had, no online business or anything, I would go learn a software, pick a in-demand software that's essential to most small businesses, become an expert at that one thing, and then you've got a marketable skill that's going to be in demand. And I think we talked about video editing is just an example last time. That's just one idea.
So if you're looking at self-reliance, but you don't look at it from the perspective of, water or food or whatnot,
Uh-huh.
what do you think are other in, what do you think are other important interpersonal ways to develop more self-reliance?
Um, well, I think taking a step by step approach, again, when I was new to all of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go learn how to hunt. I got to learn how to grow a garden. I got, this massive list of tasks that was completely unattainable. So just pick one small step at a time, start with a small garden. Hey, I'm going to grow a garden this summer. And, you're moving yourself one step closer towards resilience, and then do the next step. And one of my notes here I wrote down is, everyone sees a slightly different future. So I think it's important for all of us to identify the risks that we see personally. Maybe it's civil unrest, maybe it's supply chain disruptions, maybe it's inflation. These are all things I personally see. Maybe it's even war. So what are some action steps that you can take to be more resilient for the future that you see and the risks that you see that lie ahead?
So let's talk about that war. You've talked a couple times about the petrodollar system on the channel.
Mhm.
What do you think about the state of global affairs right now?
I think it's highly, highly unstable. The geopolitical global stage is very unstable right now, and a lot of the focus here in the United States, anyway, has been just like on all the domestic issues, and rightfully so. It's a mess here too, the domestic things. But I think we've kind of taken our eye off the ball for many of us on just how unstable the geopolitical system is, and the Middle East, the dynamic with Russia and China. I mean, we're on a collision course. And when that happens, I don't know, but unfortunately I do think we're probably headed towards a major military conflict before too long. Put it that way.
What happens to gold in a war environment?
Well, so typically what happens when there's geopolitical disruptions, or the metals get a safe haven bid, and then as soon as the situation de-escalates, it goes away. So I'm not looking for like that to be the next major catalyst for gold. I look to gold as for like a monetary metal. That's what's going to really drive it higher. But you can look at, if there is war, it costs a lot of money. The tax base can't support that, so they're going to have to print tons more currency, to fund these wars. So that right there would be the big driver for the metals in that kind of environment.
What do you make of the economic climate right now in America? I mean, it just seems so insurmountably bad.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering, what is your take on, at present time, looking at right now in June, looking at what the Biden administration says they're going to do, looking at the housing market? What's your take?
Like right now, I think we're on a sugar high, or of course, many people use the analogy of like a heroin addict. We just got the latest dose of heroin, so it feels good. All this currency injected, but eventually, that final heroin dose kills the patient or kills the user. So, I mean, I think it makes all of this currency creation makes people oblivious. I'm talking about the masses here, not necessarily your listeners, to what lies ahead. The problems that we face. So it's going to make the eventual day of reckoning even harder. Even worse. The more they inflate this bubble, this everything bubble, the bigger the pop is going to be. The bigger the crash is going to be. So that's where I think we are. We're in this big sugar high. The S&P is breaking out to new all-time highs. When we have record unemployment. And inflation is starting to really catch hold. So,
Do you believe them when when Yellen and some of these folks say they need to raise interest rates?
yeah, I believe everything they say. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I do think that it's possible, and it's probably, at some point it's very likely they're going to raise nominal interest rates when inflation starts to really run hot. So they want to create the perception that they're doing something, that everything's under control. But what's going to happen? I mean, this happens in almost all bull markets with commodities and specifically silver and gold. Yeah, they start to raise nominal rates, but inflation is rising faster.
Yeah.
So real rates are negative. And that's the single biggest driver for precious metals is real rates. And I expect to have negative real rates for many years into the future. So yeah, they'll start to raise nominal rates, but that's they're going to stay behind the curve when it comes to fighting inflation.
So, where does Silver Chartist fit into this equation? Why should someone sign up for the free newsletter?
Well, the free newsletter, I think everyone should, because it's just, it's a free resource, and we try and provide tons of value for free without spamming you or hitting you with any kind of high pressure sales tactics. And what I do is I share what I see happening in the markets right here, right now. And we're laser focused on silver, uranium, and gold. We look at macro fundamentals, and then I look at technicals to identify precision buy and sell points. And then, of course, we have a premium service. It's very affordable. I mean, we keep it accessible to we want to serve as many people as we possibly can. And that's where you get a fully transparent, over the shoulder look at exactly what I'm doing in my own personal portfolio. And I provide reasoning for that.
So the link to that is right there down below in the comments and in the description right there down below to sign up to the free Silver Chartist newsletter. Let us know in the comments what you think of today's episode. What of these steps or tips to prepare spoke to you most? And give us a comment if you think we missed anything. What are other things that you think are important for overarching preparing for this, as Huxley once stated, brave new world that we're entering? Love to know what your comments are. Let us know right there down below. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the like button on this video. It'll send it out in the YouTube universe so more people see it. We can help more people prepare. So if you think we do a good job with the work here on this channel, one of the ways we can compete against the big people that are actually, they pay YouTube to get their placements in the algorithm. And so if you want to help us compete with that, simple way you can always do that is just by hitting the like button, giving us a comment down below. If you didn't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe and bell notification to get notified for new videos. The Silver Chartist free newsletter is right there down below in the description and pinned to the comments. And I want to thank you for coming on, Steve.
You bet. Thanks, brother. Oh, it's always fun.